Roger Marsh is committed to evolving humanity to a more peaceful, joyful, and love based state. Contributing to this mission, he is the author of Next Gen Human, a modern age path to fulfillment, and TruthBubble, navigating realms of reality and our societal shift from fear to love. Founder of the Institute for Divine Energy Alignment and Living Ideal, a 501c3 nonprofit supporting our shift from fear to love, a facilitator and trainer with Integral Transformative Practice International, a 501c3 positive evolution in body, mind, heart, and soul, a heart math coach providing tools and techniques to access heart based intelligence, and a leader and a team coach opening hearts and minds of leaders around the world. With a Bachelor's of Science in Engineering and a Master's in Business Administration, he brings a grounded and pragmatic approach to the further developments of our human capacities. He is on Amazon. He is a printed author. He is also the author of Truth Bubbles. Ladies and gentlemen, I think I got the name right. He'll correct me if I didn't. Ladies and gentlemen, Roger Marsh.
All right. Let's stretch out a little bit. Oh, open the body, move it around a little bit in ways that feels good. Wake up if you've been sitting too long, like me. Move around a little bit to wake up the body. You may have saw I'm a trainer with Integral Transformative Practice. That's body, mind, heart, and soul. And we do a lot of work with the body. And so your body is here. It's not just a big brain on a stick. And so we move it around, we wake it up, and the heart is here. A big part I'm going to talk about, the heart, and I'm also going to talk about the soul. So thank you, Jerry, for the introduction. So I wrote these two books, and the first one came out in 2009. It's called Next Gen Human. And that book was my personal journey of living up until that point in time. And it's basically an interior journey. That journey, I would say, that book is about the hero's journey. Going inside and cultivating your inner world awareness. It's a path of healing, which I think is really important, and it's what we're experiencing on the planet today. Our collective humanity, human family is healing. There's a big healing that's happening. And so Next Gen Human was about the emergence of a new human on the planet. And that's a heart-based human, connected to the soul, fully embodied, and coming from love. I was really excited listening to Tom, who I've listened to before, because a lot of what he says, the science that he brings, supports the more philosophical angles that I come in on. Often people tell me that my books are accessible. They're easy to read. And so people can understand that. I pride myself on making books that are easy to read and are easy to access. So there's science in them, yes, but I keep it simple. So this book is about the interior journey, Next Gen Human. And this book, as the image, the Vitruvian Man from Leonardo da Vinci indicates, is about expanding out into the universe, really opening up yourself fully to the universe. This is, a posture of just complete and total acceptance and surrender and giving. And so that's what this book is about. It's about expanding out into the world. After you've connected with the world, see, there's the fetal position. It's a naked man basically being born. So there's a healing that happens and an emergence that happens. And this was naturally my second book. But notice, there's 12 years between the two. It's a long journey. It's a path that each of us are walking in our own lives. So I'm going to talk about TruthBubble today. And my talk is broken into two parts: navigating realms of reality, which is super exciting, and then our societal shift from fear to love, which happens in our own hearts, each and every one of us individually shifting from fear to love, which Tom talked about. He said consciousness evolves through love-based choices. And he says it devolves through fear-based choices. That's my experience, and that's the fundamental premise of this book. And that happens in each of our lives, moment to moment to moment. Are we coming from fear, or are we coming from love? The other thing that he said that I thought was really cool was consciousness, he defined it as awareness of choices. That's really key. That's pretty simple. Consciousness is simply awareness of choices. And that's been my experience too. George Leonard, a mentor of mine, a co-founder of Integral Transformative Practice, he said that the health of an organism is directly proportional to its number of perceived options. The health of an organism is directly proportional to its number of perceived options. So the more awareness you have of choices, the more conscious you are, and the more healthy you are. So this is a good thing. All right, so let's see if I can advance this. Cool. I'm going to start in our own hearts. This is how I open my book, with an experience. So I'd like each of you to do this if you're willing. You can place your hands on your heart. You can bow your head towards your heart. It really is a surrender of the mind to this more integrated, holistic aspect of ourselves called the heart. Take 3 deep, slow breaths. And you can imagine your breath just moving down into your heart. Breathing into the heart. In through the nose, out through the mouth. Become aware of the power of your heart. There's an amazing wisdom there. It's our GPS, God's perfection system. Tap into this through a deep and slower breath. And now activate a feeling of appreciation or gratitude for anything, for this moment, for this conference, for this breath, for your life. Gratitude is a frequency that is powerful for creating. We can become present to the miracle of the universe inside which we exist, and for the miracle of the universe which exists inside us. And we can breathe easy, knowing that we are safe, we are loved. This moment is perfect. Every moment is perfect. Relax. And now extend and radiate this loving energy of appreciation and gratitude out to others. That's also what Tom said. Tom said, love, fear is a focus on self, love is a focus on others. So we cultivate our capacity to love and be greatness for others, inspiration for others. So just radiate this. You don't have to do anything. You're being it already. Just radiate it out to the person next to you, to everybody in this room. And the whole world, the entire universe. We're connected across infinite realms. And I say thank you for that practice, because it makes a difference. So in this field of love, I'd like you to take a moment and just reflect. You can write this down if you have something to write on. Just take a moment and say, what am I grateful for? You know, some of you probably have a gratitude practice. It's one of the greatest things you can do, is spend a little time looking at what you're grateful for. What do you love and appreciate about your life? If you stop and look, there's usually way more things to be grateful for than there is to not be grateful for. I mean, the fact that you had this breath, the fact that you had a little bit of food, some water, that you have friends and family, that you have whatever you have, this moment. But that's not usually default. The mind tends to look for things that are wrong. It's got a job to do. It's protecting us and helping us survive. So this is a practice. But just think of something you're grateful for, and if you're willing, turn to one of your neighbors and just tell them, I'm grateful for, and tell them. Take a minute and do that. Hey, thank you. It just takes a moment. It can be very helpful to give voice to what we're grateful for, to give it some conscious creation. Perfect. So I want to emphasize this is a practice, and that our society is so focused on material reality, as Tom again was talking about. It's a materialism, it's physicalism. That's all there is. And in a world of materialism, in a world of physicalism, there's doers. What you do is the only thing that matters. So what do? We ask each other. How about who do you be? You know, who are you? You know, it's what do you do? What do you do for a living? It's all about doing. And that's a science of materialism. And if you're not doing something, then what are you? Well, you're a loser. You're lazy. You know, it's like get out of bed and get to work. You know, whatever it is. That's our society because doing is the only thing that makes a difference and makes an impact. But we know in this room that there's an entire other side to that physical universe. Yes, there's a physical universe. Absolutely, there's a material universe. It's very important, and doing is very important. We're doing a conference. I'm doing a presentation. It's great. Yes, doing. But it all comes from what? Being, exactly. And this is where the power is. All doing emerges from being. So in my work, I cultivate a being state first. And then from there, we look to see what there is to do. Sometimes there's nothing to do. You're so being whole and complete and fulfilled and radiating love that that's what you're doing. You're being so powerful, there's no doing necessary. I love being like that. I love beers like that. I love being with people who are being that. It's powerful. However, there's a lot of doing that's needed too. I bring this quote up because in my book, TruthBubble, if you get nothing from this presentation, but maybe this lands a little deeper, that would be the best thing. It's really the crux of my book. We do not see things as they are, we see them as we are. That's what a truth bubble is. That's what a reality bubble is. And so everywhere we go, there we are. We are the center of our universe, whose center is everywhere and circumference is nowhere. Kind of get that. We're infinite, but everywhere we go, we're the center of that universe. We are a truth bubble. And as Tom said, people don't think they have beliefs. They have facts. They have, you know, what is their occurrence. And to a certain extent, that's true because what we believe to be true does manifest. We can prove it to ourselves. So it's really important to take a look at our inner world and cultivate that. This is my definition of what a truth bubble is. I'll read it here. You can read along with me. It's one's personal experience of reality. The beliefs, the worldview, or the mindset that creates the world one lives inside. It's one's personal truth of things based upon their experience. We have experiences, and then we say, that's true. It's often justified by collecting data and the opinions of others that support it, and it's only one option of reality among an infinite number of possibilities. So this is a truth bubble. It looks like this. You are the big picture in the middle. And there's all these other truth bubbles floating around. There's however number many of people in this room, there's that number of truth bubbles. I like to say there's 7.5 billion truth bubbles on the planet today, if that's the current number of human beings walking around. So the cool thing is, you're at the center, you're cultivating your experience of reality, but there's these other realities that are floating around. And so some of them, like this person on the left, overlaps quite a bit with your reality. That's kind of like us here in this room. We're like, hey, I'm having a Mandela Effect experience. There's not very many of us in the world right now. We're on an evolutionary edge of consciousness. Then you have people like, hey, there's some overlap. You know, there's certain areas. Maybe you overlap in the area of hobbies or things that you love to do or foods that you like. You know, there's overlaps in different ways. And then there's these people that are completely in other truth bubbles, totally outside. And there's people in truth bubbles we don't even know about. You know, there's completely over there having a total... How many people do we know on the planet today? 7.5 billion. You know, how many? I think the average person has 200 strong connections out of 7.5 billion. Most people only have like 5 good friends, if even that. So there's a whole bunch of these going on out there. But this is the one that matters the most. And that's where we have our hands on the steering wheel. That's where we can drive our car. That's where our evolution of consciousness unfolds, hopefully to more and more love. And that's what I want to talk about next. So here, navigating realms of reality. I like to think of it as timeline surfing. I used to be a windsurfer. I was a terrible regular surfer. The waves just killed me. But I liked the wind, and surfing with the wind was fun on lakes. So timeline surfing. I'm going to give you a little story. So we're all experiencing different shifts in reality, different Mandela effects. And what I like to do is I like to press into the edge of reality. I think everybody here probably does. And so I was going to a breath workshop. How many of you ever done any breath work? You're breathing out really fast. It's super powerful. Yes, I was invited by a friend to go to a town I hadn't driven to before from the town I was currently living in. And the breath workshop started at 4 o'clock. And we paid for a seat in the room. You know, you lay down on a yoga mat. And she said, do not be late. Anybody showing up late will not be let into the room because you need to be there early. You need to set up your little station, and then we're going to get going, and we don't want anybody being late. Started at 4 o'clock, and it was a 1-hour drive from where I lived. So my girlfriend and I, she's in the back of the room there, Cheryl, we're going to go together. And I looked up the map and everything and figured out how we would go, and it was going to be a 1-hour drive. And I said, okay, we got to get out the door at 3 o'clock. We need to be there at 4. It was Sunday afternoon. There should be no traffic. Everything's going to be smooth and easy. We start driving down the road. We're 20 minutes into the drive, and our Apple Maps, which I do use, and it's amazing. The thing, how many of you have the experience that it tells you within a minute when you're going to arrive somewhere, and it's accurate? It really works. I've come to trust that. I'm like, man, how does it know? It can predict traffic and everything. It's so good at that. So I use that. 20 minutes into the drive, it starts saying, turn around, turn around, turn around. And the arrival time went from 3:59 to 5:30, an hour and a half later. And I'm like, what the WEF, right? And my girlfriend's looking at me going, we got to turn around. We got to turn around. We got to just go back home and do it online. There's an online option. I'm like, I'm not doing a breath workshop online. I want to go be with my friends and be in the space and do it. So I'm like, that's not an option. And then it wanted me to turn around and go a whole long way, a totally different route. And I'm like, looking at the map, you know, because sometimes you can see the red where it might be traffic. Nothing. I'm like, what the hell's going on? And I'm like, I'm not going to go that way. I'm not going home. I want to have breath work with my friends. I want to have dinner with my friends afterward. Check in with my heart. What do I want? I'm going to be there at 4 o'clock. I'm going to go the way I am. Turn off the phones. So we turn off the phones and completely commit to the reality that we want it to unfold. And, you know, all right. And then I also said, if I'm there at 5:30, if it actually is for some reason going to take an extra hour and a half going this way, fine. I'll just have dinner with my friends and I'll miss the workshop. So I was okay no matter what. So let's start going. Turn off the phones. Don't look at any negative information. Don't look at timelines that aren't the one that I want to be on. So we're moving along, and there's no traffic. There's no traffic. Well, this is the other thing. We were driving through the Sacramento River Delta area, which is beautiful. I wanted to see the beautiful drive, not the crappy freeway drive. That was another thing I wanted. So we're driving through the beautiful river area, and then my girlfriend, she can't stand it. She turns on the phone. How are we doing? You know, I'm like, oh no. She turns on the phone, and we had made up 40 minutes already, but we were still 20 minutes late. Or it was like, we had made up an hour and 20 minutes, and we were still going to be 20 minutes late. So I was like, that's positive information. Thank you very much for that. We're making up time like crazy, but we still need 20 more minutes. Turn off the phone. Don't look. We're just cruising along, right? And, you know, once it was clear we were going to make it on time to turn the phone on, and our arrival was 4:01, I think it was. And we pulled in, and my friend was there waving us into the parking spot that was perfect. And then he walked us right in, and there was 2 spots in the back, and we laid out our mats and did our breath work. So that was an example of timeline surfing. So I put together here, don't be overwhelmed by the number of things on here, but what were some of the keys to the success? And I used this in many different places. I did a little timeline surfing on the way here in a restaurant. You know, you just look at the reality that's being presented to you, and then you question it, and you cultivate the one you want to go in. So awareness of the options. This is consciousness. What are the waves of possibility that are rolling in? Okay, and some of them are desirable, and some of them are not desirable. And the ones that are not desirable, use that energy. It's fine. It's like when we got the hour and a half message, we're going to be an hour and a half late, that was a hit. It was like, no, I don't want that. So my energy came up. To use that energy is really powerful. So we can use the energy. Hits can be gifts through internal alchemy or transformation. Connect to your heart and stay in a field of love and receptivity. Breathe into the heart. Take a moment. What do I really want here? What's really possible here? You know, this information's coming in. And then listen to the guidance from your heart for the highest and best. Your heart knows the way. The mind says, we're screwed. Give up. This ain't going to work. You know you're not going to make it there. You know, whatever. It's like, don't listen to the mind. Drop in. Say, thank you very much. Coming back to the heart. And then affirm that you're okay no matter what. This is a practice of non-resistance. Even if you're going to die. So we be free of death itself. If I die, hey, my little journey here was shortened for a little bit, and I go on to the next journey. You know, it's always okay. So no matter what, you are okay, and we affirm that. State of surrender, a state of pure creation. And then you focus on the highest and best. So I was like, we're going to make it on time. We're going to get there, turn off any other information. I don't want to see it. I don't want to hear it. We're going. And then down here, celebrate and amplify the evidence that's supporting the preferred timeline. So Cheryl, my girlfriend, turned on her phone, and we had made up an hour and 20 minutes. I'm like, it's working. Yeah, let's go. We got 20 more minutes to make up. So you celebrate that from the heart. Non-resistance to evidence of other timelines. If she had turned it on and we were still an hour and a half late, I'd be like, oh well, turn it off. We got a lot of time to make up. Just keep affirming where you're going. And then gentle persistence until it's manifested. Make course corrections as necessary. And you may not get the outcome that you want. That's part of the game. It doesn't always work. We're not like perfect manifestors, but it can often. And then we get what we get, and we celebrate no matter what. The miracle of the life we were given and the experience that we had. So these are my keys for successful timeline surfing or navigating realms of reality. And I'm a heart-based guy, and this is my truth bubble. You guys play with your own truth bubbles and what works for you. Maybe you need just one step. You know, I just go, boom, I'm going, I'm going to be on time, and I'm done, and it happens. You know, I need 10 steps. You know, I'm that kind of guy. Okay, so that part was navigating realms of reality. What I want to talk about now is the anatomy of fear, because this is a really important opportunity for us, not only as individuals, but as a humanity, to transform fear into love. And again, building on what Tom said, I didn't know he was going to say that, but consciousness transforms. It advances by choices based in love, and it devolves by choices based in fear. And that's my personal experience too. Whenever I choose from fear, I get more lessons, more opportunities to positively evolve. So this is important to recognize, the physiological structures of our human brain. I'm going to start at the bottom because this is the brainstem and the cerebellum. It's supposedly one of the oldest parts of our brain. They call it the reptilian brain. And its main question is, am I safe? We're constantly walking around in all the spaces that we're in with this part of us going, am I safe? Am I safe? Am I safe? Am I safe? All the time. And it keeps us alive. We wouldn't be here. If our ancestors were eaten by the saber-toothed tiger, you know, if they weren't aware of that bush where the animal comes out and kills them, we wouldn't be here. So it's important. We don't deny this. We honor it and we recognize it. Okay, and then if our answer to the first question is I am safe, then the limbic system kicks in. It says, okay, I'm safe, I'm physically safe, even emotionally and mentally safe. And then it kicks in and says, am I loved? Or am I included? Do I belong here? That's the second question. And if the answer to that question is, am I loved? Now you have access to the higher brain states, up into the cerebral cortex, where the question is, what am I learning? But if any of the answers below are no, you won't get there because your survival is threatened. Either you don't feel safe and you got to get the heck out of there. What you're learning is, I got to go. Or you're not loved, you don't belong. We don't like to be in those circumstances, you know, where we don't feel included, people aren't paying attention to us. It's very uncomfortable. So we'll get out of those circumstances too. But once you feel safe, once you feel loved, now you're creative. And this is what I teach leaders and teams. I'm like, you've got to create places of psychological safety where people feel safe, emotionally, mentally, and physically, where they feel loved. That's a sense of belonging in the corporate world. And then you have access to this amazing creativity. And that's where all of the discretionary effort, breakthroughs, miracles occur. So this is true for us, each and every human being, at least in my truth bubble. Maybe you have a different brain. It's totally possible. And so I want to say that everyone is seeking safety and love. and it's a physiological need and an imperative, most people are looking outside of themselves for it. Safety we get. I'm not dismissing these things. They're important, but they're temporary. So we seek food, shelter, clothing, knowledge. I'm the smartest person in the room, or I look at all the money I got. People love to have tons of money because that makes them feel safe and powerful. We get love through, do people love me? Do I have a lot of likes online? Look at all the good comments about my stuff. You know, getting respect, being important, being famous. This is all an exterior, outside world, big effort to feel safe and to feel loved. Fundamental human needs. We do need to feel safe and loved. It's just a matter of where are you getting it from. Most people are doing a lot of work to get it outside. These are temporary and they're always changing. So you might have it in one moment and then it's gone. People have been billionaires and then they're broke. People have been famous and then they're, you know, sloughed off to the side. So if you don't know who you are and where you're coming from, you've lost your safety and love. It's terrifying. So why do people do this? Because the fundamental truth bubble most people are in is I'm not safe and I'm not loved. Why? Why are we in this terrible truth bubble of I'm not safe and I'm not loved by default? Well, we saw the physiology of the brain. That's a part of it. But it's also because of trauma in our past. I would ask how many of you experienced some kind of trauma, but I'm going to assume it's everybody in this room because you don't incarnate as a human being and get away with no trauma. Shit goes down on this planet and it gets tough. I've had it, you've had it, some people have it way more. I say those are amazingly advanced souls. Those guys are playing an advanced game. You know, I am blessed in my game, but I've got my trauma too. It's experienced and handed down through family of origin, through society at large. It's just happening. It's happening all the time. Generation after generation after generation. Ultimately, this is a truth bubble that's based in fear. So the opportunity for us is to heal this. I know many of you in this room have done lots of healing work. You know, I spent over $10,000 on a psychologist, went once a week for 2 hours. That was very helpful, healing some of my daddy issues. You know, and just transformation after transformation after transformation. It's a continuous process of what I say going up a spiral mountain. You see the town of low self-esteem, of I don't matter, of I'm not loved and I'm not safe, from higher and higher perspectives. But I still see my trauma every time I turn that mountain. It's confronting, but it's smaller and smaller and smaller. And it takes less space in my being. It has less power over my choices as I shift more and more to love. So, what if you knew you were always safe and always loved? This is the key. I am safe and I am loved, always and forever, no matter what. That's a truth bubble based in fear. People talk about the peace that passes all understanding. This is that place where you're safe and loved always and no matter what. This is the peace and joy of existence itself. Nothing to do, nothing to manipulate, nothing to get. I'm safe, I'm loved. This is the joy of life that's given to each and every one of us. Just turn toward it. So what would your choices and actions look like if you were coming from that truth bubble? That place of being, I am safe and I am loved. And now what is there to do? I don't have to get all this safety and love, manipulate all these people and opinions and stuff. I'm free. Now what? Well, that's a good question. Well, here's the thing. This is another really key truth bubble principle. You can access your own experience of safety and love by getting connected to your source of life. Your source of life. It's unique to each and every one of us. And this is the foundational move that we must make to create whole new truth bubbles, to surf reality in positive and inspiring ways. So how do we do that? Well, I'm a heart math guy. I love heart math. How many of you are familiar with heart math? You've certainly heard of it. Yeah, a lot of you. I've done everything they've offered pretty much. I started studying with them in 2006, and I was like, wow, this is really important. I knew that it was God's perfection system that they were giving me access to. I can't imagine living my life without direction from my heart. Because this living from the brain, oh my God, the mind is so insane. So here we have the heart, this wise guide. And what heart math discovered is this simple thing. You slow down your breathing. This is what we did at the beginning of my talk. You slow down your breathing in and out usually six, count of six going in and a count of six going out. And then you activate an appreciative feeling in the heart of love or joy or care. And the heart shifts to this pattern, which they call a coherent heart rhythm. The heartbeats are speeding up and slowing down in a very rhythmic fashion. The default heart rate for the average human being is very erratic, and it creates stress in the brain because the heart is sending lots of information to the brain. And when the heart is erratic, which is its natural state, it actually is sending fear to the brain and triggering up through the amygdala and the thalamus, and we're getting messages of fear. So we can shift our physiology to love, and it changes the messages that the brain gets. This is super powerful, and it's actually very easy. So I'd like all of us to experience this. If you're willing to do it, we're going to transform a fear into love. Okay, so if you can think of a fear or even just a little worry or a concern that is in your life right now, this is a form you can use on your little piece of paper. You could write it down. Just write it down. So I invite you, I'm going to give you just a minute. And if you don't have a piece of paper or a pen, you can just think of what is something that I've been worried about or concerned about, or, you know, I've got a family member that is dying right now, and I'm concerned about that, and I'm on this trip, and, you know, should I be here is a concern of mine, and I've checked with everybody, and it's appropriate, you know. But that is a fear or a worry or a concern for me about this dying family member. But I can go to my heart and access different insight rather than being afraid. So, what is yours? What's your fear, worry, or concern? And then notice, what are your automatic reactive thoughts and feelings to that? You know, like with me, in my example, with a dying family member, it's like, you should be there, you're going to be totally judged, and people are going to say, you know, you're off on a selfish, you know, trip, doing your own thing. These are all my fear-based thoughts. You know, if this person dies while you're gone, you'll never forgive yourself. You know, you're going to suffer for the rest of your life because you weren't there. You know, it's like, ugh. It's just like, you know, so it's right there. What is it for you, though? What are the fears? It could be something small. You know, I didn't eat any food today, and this conference goes till 6 o'clock. How am I going to survive? I'm starving. You know, where's the food in this place, you know? Looks like Chris has an awesome office. Can I get some food here somewhere? You know, small stuff. I was at the Esalen Institute. How many of you ever been to Esalen on the Big Sur coast in California? Just Cynthia? Oh, you guys got to go there. It's amazing. California Esalen Institute. I was there, and they have this amazing banquet of food, and they bring out dessert, but that's served in big trays. It'd be like apple pie a la mode, you know, with that really crunchy, crispy crust, or it'd be like hot brownies with ice cream.
Stop it, I haven't eaten.
It's so good. And you see people coming out, because I like to eat outside, you see people coming out with these amazing dessert dishes, and they're like, there was like one piece left, and all of a sudden my mind goes, I better get my butt up there and get some of that dessert. It's going to run out. I got to get it. You know, it's right there. The fear is I'm not going to get what I need because I'm sitting on my butt not doing it. And I noticed that, and I said, okay, what's my ideal outcome? And I said, my ideal outcome is I finish my meal in peace, I relaxed and let it digest, and then I go get the dessert when I'm ready. And it's there, and it's wonderful. That's perfect. I don't have to worry that it's running out. Even when somebody comes back and says, one piece left, one piece left. You know, come on. But I had to be okay with what? With not getting the dessert. Maybe I won't. So non-resistance. Well, fine. My salad was amazing. Didn't need the dessert. Okay? But notice the automatic reactive thoughts and feelings to the dessert not coming. Small. Very different than, you know, I got a family member dying. So there's range of fears. So what is it for you? Just notice how the mind just kicks in. And now let's do a little heart math. We'll do a little what we call heart-focused breathing, and we'll do it. So again, it's bringing your awareness down to your heart, taking a nice, deep, slow breath in through the heart, letting it out. Just bringing you, I actually feel energy just kind of like dripping down in my body. It like comes out of the upper portion of my head and just goes down into my heart. Notice what the sensation is for you. And just breathe in and out of the heart. I can feel a shift in the room already. We're becoming more coherent as a group. And now as you move into a more coherent state, you can ask your heart, given the fear, the worry, or the concern that you're working with, what is the most efficient and effective response to that circumstance? Ask your heart, what's the most efficient and effective response to this situation? And then listen to the wisdom of your heart. It's usually right there. Sometimes it's like an onion. You have to peel back the layers because the mind's very loud. And you can peel back the layers to the heart wisdom. And you'll get something and then you're like, okay, thank you for that. Staying coherent, activating, this feeling of appreciation for your life, for whatever. Staying joy-based, based in gratitude. You ask again, what's the most efficient and effective response? And you might get another layer to the onion. Okay, so did any of you get a little more insight that was different than your mind? Anybody? A little bit? A few hands? Yeah? Good. It takes a little practice, and heart math is a practice, but with practice, you can really tap into that God's perfection system, this GPS right here in your heart, and navigate realms of reality with love. Super powerful. And it's free, it's fast, and powerful. So I love heart math. All right, here we go. Fear. Question it. If you got fear, red flag. I love these little examples. Fear, false evidence appearing real. One story. Here's a quick story. At the airport, my girlfriend and I were in line at this. We went through Chicago Midway to come here, and we went to this little Irish pub, and there was a sign that says, "Go to the bar to order food." And we get close to the bar, there's a person in front of us, and there's a sign that says, "The kitchen is closed." And there was a woman in front of us who was turned away. My girlfriend actually heard the bartender say, "There's no food." And the woman in front of us turned around and left. "Kitchen's closed." And so we walk up there, and I'm like, I see a menu, and I see some food on there that I would like. And I'm thinking, I'm going to have an order of food. Let's get our food here. We're going to have food here. And then the bartender comes over, "What can I get you?" I'm like, "Well, I'd like to order a couple of things off the menu here. Is that all right?" "Yeah, what do you want?" There's a sign that says kitchen's closed right there. There was a person turned away. I'm ordering food. So question these things, just press in on it a little bit. Forgetting everything is all right. Free energy about to release. I love that one. This is one of my favorite quotes by Mark Twain. "I've suffered a great many tragedies in my life, most of which never happened." That would be the story of my brain, my mind, It's like, and then when nothing happens, it just goes quiet. I'm like, now what? What do you have to say now? It didn't happen. Nothing. You're like, man, okay, thanks. Okay, so here, this is what I'm noticing in my truth bubble. Wow, size and scope of fears are going off the charts. I have become more globally conscious about things in the past 3 years. COVID was a huge kick in my butt for conscious expansion. Okay? And now here comes climate change. It's always been there. It's been there. My dad's 90-something, and he's like, "That's the oldest story in the book, man." It was for him, he was like, "Oh, it was going to be global freezing. In 10 years, the planet was going to be frozen. It was scientifically proven." He's just like, "I'm not buying it." I went and I saw Inconvenient Truth, and I came to my dad, "Oh, my God, we got to do something. What do you think?" And he's like, "Oh, my God, I can't believe you bought that stuff." So he gave me a little education, but it's true. Every 10 years is another 10-year catastrophe that's just on the horizon. But we know that reality is malleable, and we know that reality depends upon our conscious thoughts. Do we love the environment? Do we want clean water? Do we want clean air? Do we want a Garden of Eden? Absolutely. Do we want the politicians taxing us to death and shutting us down to get that? No, that's ridiculous. Let's just create a Garden of Eden. Let's do it. Yeah, we can do it. Let's have a new Mandela effect that is, wow, the earth is amazing. Look at it, look at it. Food supply, water supply, these pandemics are coming. It's going to be a century of pandemics. Our loss of freedoms with the CBDCs and all this stuff is coming, right? Oh no, I got to do stuff. Looking through my doom scrolling, you know. Artificial intelligence, here it comes, going to take away everybody's jobs. Attorneys, doctors, coaches. I'm a leadership coach. There's already Bitsy the AI coaching bot. You know, here they come. I'm not afraid. False evidence appearing real. What am I creating? So we're transforming fear into love at a global level. That's what's going on in my truth bubble. I'm looking at these things. And I'm like, hey, I have a global consciousness now. I'm a global citizen. This is cool. Now who am I as a global citizen? What am I creating? That's a good question. And so what I'm noticing is that there's a healing journey that we go on as an individual. And it maps to the family, the human family. There's trauma in the human family that's wanting transformation. The amount of corruption and torture and stuff that I'm seeing in the world now is, I mean, it's just so, breaks my heart. It's unbelievable. And I wasn't seeing it as clearly as I am now. It's everywhere now. It's like I'm so aware of it. But we can frame this fear as a helpful catalyst, and we can use it. So as we become more conscious, we become aware of the areas that are needing love. One of my favorite teachers, Michael Bernard Beckwith. He's the founder of Agape in Culver City, California. He's an amazing minister. And he says, you know, if you read a headline and it's traumatizing, every headline is a call for prayer. Send love, send compassion, send, you know, your highest and best to all these places. And that's powerful healing energy that you're sending. So yes, we can be activists. We can do things in these spaces, wherever you may be called. Do it, for sure. And we can pray, we can meditate, we can elevate the consciousness of the planet that way. So why are we becoming more aware of these challenging things on the planet? Because we're expanding to new levels of consciousness. That's what's happening. And if you put it in that frame, I'm excited because Next Gen Human is coming. Next Gen Human is being born. This is the birthing pangs of the global Next Gen Human. And that's a frame that empowers me. So look here, and we see it in nature all the time. You know, look at the chicken and egg. So what was once really important to that chicken, the egg around it, it needed that egg. All of its nutrients were in there, and it was in there just growing along. Yay, yay, yay. And then at some point, it's like, oh my God, this is completely constricting. I can't take it anymore. What do I do? What do I do? And then it just like, I'm pecking my way out of here. It just starts pecking. And then I like this little chicken. He's just strutting, you know, he's so happy. Look at me out in my new world. That's going to be us. We're pecking through the shell. Okay? This is a classic example, but it's so potent. The cocoon, you know, the caterpillar, it just eats and eats and eats and eats and eats, and then it goes into its cocoon, turns into gelatinous, you know, just a goo, and then there's imaginal cells that come forward, and then eventually the butterfly is born, but some of you may know that if you try to help the butterfly out and cut the cocoon to make it easier to get out, the butterfly dies. Because the process of squeezing out of the cocoon squeezes liquid into the wings in a way that allows it to then fly. So it's kind of like the only way out is through. When it comes to fear, turn toward it and move toward it and move through it. Because if you try to shortcut it, they call it spiritual bypassing, it doesn't work. It just keeps, you know, everywhere you go, the fear keeps coming. So we got to turn toward it. There's a Buddhist saying, which is, your demons wonder why you don't love them more. I love that, you know? And if any of you have done some psychedelic journeys like I have lots of demons that come into that door, man. Holy moly. And it's just like opening my heart and turning towards those things. You know, what do you have to teach me? What am I not knowing? What do I have to learn here? So this is an opportunity, and we see it in nature too. So we've got a lot of contraction that when the baby's being born, there's contraction, and the baby's super happy in there, right? I'm happy in mama's womb, right? And then it's like, what's going on? They're getting contraction and squeezed out. It's like, what? And then boom, you're out in this world. It's like, I had no idea this was out here. And just going to the gym, same thing. We use resistance to build strength and capacity. So that's what we're doing in our own lives and on a planetary level. So what new reality is Earth emerging into? This is my question. It's emerging into a new one, but more importantly, what new reality are you emerging into? Because we're in our own truth bubble. We're in our own reality bubbles. What are you choosing? I do think and I do feel that some people will choose a dystopian nightmare, and they'll journey into that space. I'm on a different train. I'm on a different timeline, and I'm affirming an abundant, beautiful Garden of Eden where people are love-based and supporting one another. So we get to choose that. But what evidence are you looking at? There's evidence for both. And if you think about timeline surfing, let's look at the good evidence without denying the negative evidence. It's there, but let's keep cultivating the positive. So here's your fun work. I don't call it homework, it's fun work. It's playful. Watch your thoughts and feelings and notice when you're disconnected and coming from fear versus coming from love. You can just ask yourself, where am I coming from? Oh, I'm fear-based right now. That's the mind just running its number on me. Notice how often you're coming from fear, how often are you coming from love, and what does it take for you to shift? Sometimes the hits are big, and it might take a while to shift. It could take a year. Just thinking of death of a loved one or divorce or even a significant, diagnosis in terms of disease. These are huge hits. And it's not like you're going to go, bam, I'm all love-based. It's like, shit, I got grieving to do. And there's something moving through. We honor that. But notice, what does it take for you to shift? And in simple things like, hey, you're going to be an hour and a half late. The cell phone's telling you that. I'm like, turn that off. I am going to this place on purpose. Or I'm having lunch. Yeah, that person was turned away for no kitchen, but I'm not living in that truth bubble. I'm having a different one. So notice what you do. How do you shift? And then share with others in the conference. It might be an interesting conversation. It's very human. This experience of fear, this experience of trauma. And I'd like to make it more okay for people to be more vulnerable and open about this hidden aspect. And it takes courage to tell our truth and to be vulnerable in that way, but this is the work, and we can make a difference for others by showing our own pains, our own wounds, and especially our own healing journey that is possible. These are a couple of quotes that I'm going to skip over. I think this one's important, again from Michael Beckwith. As we begin to understand human consciousness and human nature, we become individuals who break free from three-dimensional awareness. Then, not only do we see possibility, we speak to it, we speak from it, and we walk in that direction, even against great odds in the human condition, using our gifts to make a difference on the planet. So that's like Christ consciousness. He talks a lot about that. He says, in this world, but not of it. How do you walk in this world, but not of it? It's like this amazing way of being. I'm interested in that kind of consciousness and cultivating that because it makes the biggest difference for everybody in my world. If I show up with Christ love-based consciousness, that's the greatest service I can bring. So, here's where you can find more about me. I do have a website, truthbubble.com, gobeyondbelief.com. This is the book. I brought 5 copies with me. If one of you really want to read that book, it's $15. I can sell those to you. I'd rather not take them back on the plane with me. In any case, I'm going to end with that and just say thank you.
And thank you, Roger. Roger Marsh, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, thank you. Yay. I feel the love.
Wonderful talk, Roger. I really appreciated that. I enjoyed it. If you guys have Q&A, we have Q&A coming up. Any questions, please step up to the microphone here and ask Roger any questions you've got for him. Looks like we have one coming up right now. Go ahead whenever you're ready, bud.
I know we're on timeline here, so you brought this up earlier when you were talking about going to the gym. And a lot of people don't want to go to the gym. A lot of people are just like, please don't make me do that. And, coming from a standpoint where people hate especially people who suffer from PTSD, one of the biggest recommendations is that you face your fear. Do you think planned trauma can be effective in your concept where you're saying, hey, transition from fear to love, but instead of avoiding fear, right, embracing it and saying, as you were talking, you talked about it a little bit, if you could go into the transmutation, that alchemical process. And then in your book, because it is a good book, you brought up a concept of a three-stage process. I think you got it from Deepak.
Right.
And in that second process, it's, there's an awareness of synchronicity, right? Can that be an opening where you can actually start saying, hey, I can face this fear now. I can now transmute this, because a lot of people don't want to. They go, really? You want me to jump out of this plane? You really want me to touch that gun again? You really want me to do this? And so where do you find that courage, and how do you plan for that type of planned trauma in your
Great question.
Planned trauma. I want to understand. What do you mean planned trauma?
Well, I mean, eventually you're going to have to say, I'm getting on the plane. I'm now in the plane.
Yeah. Consciously
Now,
turning towards it.
No, facing a fear instead of waiting, oh, look, fear has presented itself, and I have a plan when fear presents itself, versus I'm going to go find the fear and put it in my world.
Gotcha.
Put it in my truth bubble.
Right, super good. I really appreciate that question, because there is, of course, a lot of resistance, and even in my own life, right? But what I have found is that we will either be pushed by pain or pulled by vision. And for most people, including myself, you get pushed by pain. There's a pain. I was suffering, in my life. I was unconsciously living in my life. And then I started seeing patterns in my life, and then became consciously incompetent, right? I realized I don't know what I don't know, and there's something running my life at a deeper level. I was suffering. I had pain. I wasn't feeling whole and healthy. I wasn't feeling safe. I wasn't feeling loved. I was experiencing pain. And so the pain drove me. It was right here with me. I just needed to kind of turn towards it and pay attention. So I think that's one thing that's really important, is that if your pain will motivate us to change. We will shift when the pain is bad enough. Some people, they avoid their psychological traumas to the point that it manifests in the physical body as some kind of a disease, and it's the disease that has them step onto the hero's journey and say, okay, well, I'm going to die, so I might as well start taking a look at this stuff and see where it's coming from. And they transform. So I'm a big believer in pain, and that pain will show up whenever it does for each person. Tom Campbell spoke to that a little bit. He said that people will transform when they're ready. Who determines that readiness? I don't know. He was speaking to a higher consciousness. It's like, hey, I think you can be really helpful for moving planetary consciousness. There may be a higher source that calls us forward into a higher level of consciousness. I could get on board with that. But the other aspect is vision. So I have a vision for the planet that's Garden of Eden, and I'm inspired by vision. When I do my coaching and teamwork with people, I always create a vision first. What's our transformed state that we're seeking? And it better be way better than what we're currently experiencing. Otherwise, why go on the journey? So we can create a transformed state that's super inspiring. And people can see it. And then when they get connected to that, they want to take the actions to have it. Because now the contrast between where I currently am and where I want to be is seen. And if you know what steps to take, whatever it is, you're going to start taking them. So I like that model of change. Inspired change, the carrot rather than the stick. But usually, it's the stick that gets people going. So that's my little short answer to your question. I hope it helps. I think there's a lot to it. And I also don't think, along the old saying, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't force him to drink. So there's a lot of people that I would love to see on a healing path of growth and change. In fact, I can even see their problems, but they don't want to do it. They're not into it. Very resistant. So that's a whole nother challenge.
All things in their own time, right?
Yeah, exactly. We can trust that. We can relax into that. Whatever's happening is in our highest and best, and theirs as well. People are waking up on their own timeline.
Anybody else have a question?
Alicia,
Here we go.
yeah,
Got another question up here. Alicia, go ahead whenever you're ready.
Hi. I'm just curious about when you were driving to your yoga thing, did you ever find out why it was going to take you so long? Like, was there actually traffic? I'm just wondering if Like,
Why did
did you
it
ever
reroute
see,
all
like,
of a
why
sudden
it was
from-
telling you something that didn't happen?
There was no evidence for an hour and a half delay that made any sense. There was none. The phone was just telling us that. We went and made it. So, I would say that the skeptic would say, well, that was just a bug in the system. The GPS, the Apple Maps was just screwed up, Yeah, the worm in the apple. I mean, that's one explanation for what happened. That system has been entirely reliable for me and many in the room, and it started saying that. And so for me, it's kind of like, Tom talked to this too, it's like the universe gives you a little test, gives you a little nudge. It's like, hey, let's see how conscious you are. I'm going to say you're an hour and a half late. What do you do with that? It could be my higher self playing with me, saying, here you go. You're going to be late to this thing. What are you going to do? Whew. Okay, I'm going to do a little practice. And so that's emerging at micro levels and macro levels. For me, the reason it takes place is because it's about evolution of consciousness. It's not about the phone or Apple's system or any of that. It's the evolution of consciousness, because that's the bubble that I'm in. I'm about evolving consciousness on my own. So when things like that happen, there are opportunities for evolution. Can I connect to love and trust? Can I be surrendered no matter what? Can I let go and know that I'm okay? Can I cause an outcome that I really desire? Those are fun games for my soul. I love that. So that's why it happens. That's why I think it happens. Thank you for the question.
And we have another question up here. Whenever you're ready.
Yeah, so I kind of have a non-specific sort of question. I guess I wanted to get your thoughts on the concept of Tom mentioned a computed reality. And at one point during your presentation here, you talked about all the shit that's in people's truth bubbles that is causing a lot of fear, whether it be climate change and I guess what I've realized over the years is that, there's an infinite amount of these things in people's truth bubbles that are just causing all sorts of havoc. And, I've definitely had trouble with that too. There are so many issues with the world at large, it seems, but is that true, or is that not true at all? Are we completely in this sort of simulate, what is, I know it's a big question, what is reality? What is the world? What is everything?
I think that's why we're here this weekend.
It is a great and deep question. And the way I enter into questions like that from my own life is looking at my own truth bubble. This is the one that really matters. Where do we have agency? Right here. Okay, and when I hear stories overseas of things going down, I'm kind of like, how much agency do I have over that? I really look to see. I have agency in the entire universe. I don't want to make my role small. I have, and each and every one of us do. We can, through our own agency of consciousness, cultivate a universe of love, of peace, of harmony, of connection, and positive creation. So, we can have an impact. But that's the first place I look. What matters to me in my truth bubble? And what can I do about it is the question. And we can always pray, we can always meditate, we can always cultivate the field of positive evolution based in love. That's always available no matter what. And we know it makes a difference. It's scientifically studied and proven. So we know that. And then it's kind of like, okay, many of you, probably like me and my girlfriend, we spent over the past 3 years a fair amount of time going down those rabbit holes. I was so depressed. I was so like, holy crap, this is heavy, man. And I was willing to look at a lot of stuff. And then you kind of come to a place where it's not serving me or anybody else to keep looking at it. What can I do to transform the circumstances? I'm fully aware. I have turned towards these demons and I have embraced them. I have looked at them. I do not deny them. Do they actually exist or not? I'm not 100% sure. They probably do. Do I want them to exist in my reality? No. I want them to heal and move on. These are, every act of violence is a cry for help and a call for love. That's how I react to it. So when I see violence in the world, I respond with love. An eye for an eye makes us both blind. I'm not into, all right, let's knock him down, and it's like, this is going to perpetuate. War creates more war. So I'm coming at it from love. I'm coming at it from consciousness. And then just ask yourself, do these things really exist or not? And listen to your own wisdom. That's the key. Your own truth. What's coming from your own heart and soul? What's true for you? And then move in that direction that's based in love. That's all I can say about that. Thank you for the question. Really good.
Great question.
Yeah.
Anybody else have a question? Anybody else? Going once. Going twice. Yep, here we go. Come on up. We got another question here.
There you go. Wow.
Thank you for. I'm just curious. Speaking of Apple, I'm always having problems with Apple phones, and they're not charging, and I have like these repeat patterns in my life with stuff like that, like technology and repeat things with phones and things not working and electronic devices. And I'm curious how I'm creating that in my reality, and I'm also curious how much choice I have over my life, because many times, I've been on a path for years, like 20 years of meditation, everyday yoga, so I'm like always working on the consciousness and becoming one with it, because I don't like struggling, and I don't know how many decisions I actually make, because when I'm actually in a place of being in the zone, I don't think as much, and therefore do I really create my reality, or do I just sort of let go and merge with it? Because my peace really comes when I'm not having to think about, like, I have a lot of things I want to manifest, but there's like this sort of struggle, like, oh, it's always out there and I have to get to it, and rather than just like be in this moment completely, like bringing the gratitude and the feeling of satisfaction right here, right now, and just allowing things to unfold. And there's such a surprise in life with things that are come to me without even trying. But many things I see that I want, I can't get to them. I just cannot make things happen. And so I've sort of kind of given up. I don't really know whether it's both happening at the same time. There's choice, and then there's no choice, free will, or I'm just curious how much, maybe two things are happening at once. But do you know what I'm trying to say? I'm more curious about like what you think about the merging of you with the divine and not making choices but just being present, or the desires that come and how to get to them. How do you approach life?
Yeah.
That's all.
That's all. I love it.
That's all, Roger. Not much. What do you got, bud?
It's a really great question, and thank you for that. What was popping into my mind was my nonprofit. It's called the Institute for Divine Energy Alignment and Living, because you were talking about aligning with the divine. And when you're fully aligned with the divine, you can surrender. You can surrender at a level of trust that it's like the synchronicities emerge from that alignment, and you can trust that. So I'm consistently working to align myself with the divine on all levels, body, mind, heart, and soul, fully aligned with the divine. And then from there, I'm already manifesting something. My frequency has shifted. The world has shifted. I've changed realities even, and now what's available. And when it comes to like technology, there's proven interactions between consciousness and technology. The Institute of Noetic Sciences have proven this. A lot of IT people will tell you there's this thing called the over-the-shoulder assist, which is someone's, this damn thing doesn't work, it always does this, and then they call the IT people, and the IT people come over, and they look over their shoulder, and then suddenly everything starts working, and they didn't do a thing. They didn't even touch the system. It's called over-the-shoulder assist. And I talked to one scientist at the Institute of Noetic Sciences who was an IT professional also, and she said, the way I look at it is I bring love to the system. The system knows it's conscious, and it knows that I know it, I know how it works, and I'm bringing an intelligence and a love to it, whereas the other person doesn't really know how it works, and so they're banging on it, and they're cursing it, and it causes conflict, and the system's like, well, I don't feel very loved here, and so we can bring love to our devices. I have a friend who has an affirmation, technology is my good friend, because he has stuff go haywire in his space too. And things have shifted for him. His phone, it'll just turn on and it'll have things playing for him that are divine messages. He's like, I don't know why that song's playing. I've never played that song before, but it has a message for me, and I'm listening to it. Technology is my good friend. God is in everything. It's in technology. It's in rocks. It's in dirt. It's everywhere. Everything is conscious. So technology can be your good friend. Maybe create an affirmation around that and come from love. Love your technology, especially when it's behaving. I think about, I don't have kids. Those of you that are parents, hallelujah, man, you guys are awesome. That is one hell of a job. So I salute you. And, when kids are acting up, that's when they most need love. Often, yes, you can discipline them, but at the same time, when they're being jerks, they don't feel loved. So we love our kids into their greatness. And we can love our technology into serving us and maybe create an affirmation around that. Another great question for me to ask whenever shit's going down is, what am I learning here? What am I learning? I'm learning something. Maybe you're learning the limits of your life, where I talk about that in my book, TruthBubble. Because if anything is possible, then I'm going to jump off this 10-story building and fly. Watch me. How many people want to see me jump off this 10-story building and fly? You probably don't, because you have a truth bubble that I'm going to hit the ground, and so do I. I think I'll hit the ground too. So I always say, if you want to jump off a 10-story building and fly, start with something a lot lower and start practicing, because it's going to be an evolutionary journey of consciousness. And if it's I run in circles where we talk about levitation and the siddhis. That's a Sanskrit term for superpowers. And so actually timeline surfing is a superpower. It's a siddhi, where you can change the external reality that you're in. I call it a super city because we're not just like moving a chair over or calling in a cup of coffee for free. We're changing the entire universe and the experience that we're having in this moment. That's that super city, and it includes technology. So what are you learning? Maybe create some positive affirmations, and then just play with your edges of life, because I've had a lot of failure and frustration in my life too. And it's like, maybe I'm not supposed to do that. I think I am, but it's not turning out. So I was just like, then what? You just go in different directions. So discovery and unfolding, that's part of the conscious journey. I hope those help a little bit. Okay, good. Thank you for the question.
Ladies and gentlemen, Roger Marsh.
Thank you.